You wake up choking on cold, so sharp it feels like it has edges. Your eyelids crack open, and there's no real dark anymore, just a thick, moving gray packed with snow and smoke. The air inside the cave is wrong. It tastes like damp ash and animal fat and panic sweat, and every breath scrapes your throat like you're inhaling sand. Somewhere close, fire is dying. Not out, just dying, shrinking into itself the way a living thing curls up when it's losing a fight. You try to sit up and the world tips. Your stomach is hollow and angry. Your hands don't feel like your hands, and the fur on your shoulders is stiff with frost where your breath has been freezing for hours. You hear a sound that isn't wind. It's a thin, wet cough that keeps trying to become a breath and failing. You turn your head and see a body near the edge of the firelight, not moving right, too still. The cave is crowded with shapes, people bundled in hides, hunched like stones, some rocking without making noise. The storm outside is a constant pressure, like something massive leaning its weight against the entrance. Snow blows in sideways through gaps you thought were sealed. The cold is winning, inch by inch, and you know it in a way that isn't a thought. It's a fact in your bones. If the fire goes out, you don't get a second chance. Your fingers claw at the ground for fuel. Anything, dry twig, scrap of bark, a chip of fat-soaked moss. You find nothing but damp grit and old soot. Your lips split when you lick them. Your tongue tastes blood, and the blood tastes like metal. You force your hands closer to the coals, and your skin stings, then goes numb again. You look at the mouth of the cave and the white blur beyond it, and you understand, with a calm that scares you, that the storm has erased the world. There is no path back out there. There is only cold and noise and the slow, quiet math of bodies running out of heat. Welcome to this survival simulation, one night in the Ice Age, when one mistake becomes a sentence. You are not a spectator here, you are inside it. You are wearing the hides, you are breathing the smoke, you are rationing warmth like food. If you want more stories like this, slow, realistic, and built to make you feel what it took to stay alive, subscribe and come back when you're ready to survive history again. Now you go back to the beginning, before the coughing, before the dying coals, before the storm turned the sky into a weapon. You go back to when the cold was normal and the fear was quiet, and you still believed the world would behave the way it always had. You wake up on hard ground that has been flattened by many bodies over many seasons. The cave floor is packed dirt, gritty and uneven, and your hip aches where bone presses into earth. Your eyes open to a dim orange glow. The fire is smaller than it was last night, but steady, guarded by a ring of stones dark with soot. Smoke crawls up toward the ceiling and hangs there, trapped under rock, leaking out in slow breaths through cracks you can't see. The air is heavy with the smell of burnt wood, old ash, and greasy animal fat. It clings to your hair and your skin. You taste it every time you swallow. Your throat is dry. Your mouth feels like you've been chewing dust. You pull the fur tighter around your shoulders. It's thick and rough, stitched from pieces that don't match, different animals, different seasons, different hunts. The seams are uneven, the hide stiff in places where it's dried too hard. It keeps you alive anyway. Every person around you is wrapped the same. You can tell who slept near the fire by the dark soot on their furs, and the ones farther back by the frost that glittered on their breath. You can hear breathing everywhere, slow, shallow breaths. A child whimpers in sleep, then goes quiet. Someone shifts and a rib bone cracks under their elbow, a leftover from yesterday's meal, picked clean and tossed aside. The cave is a place of leftovers, old bones, old ash, old smells. It is shelter, and it is a trap if the outside world decides to close its fist. You sit up and feel the temperature difference immediately.
Your back had been against another body, and now it's exposed. Cold creeps in under the hide like water. It finds gaps. It finds sweat. You feel it in your armpits, behind your knees, at the base of your neck. Your feet are wrapped in strips of hide, not really shoes, more like promises. Your toes are stiff. You flex them slowly until pain turns into sensation. You listen. Outside the cave, the wind is there, always there, but today it sounds different. Not louder exactly, harder, more constant. The cave mouth is a dark opening framed by rock, and beyond it, the world is pale. Snow covers everything. It doesn't sparkle like it does in stories. It looks dead. The light outside is thin and flat, like the sun is tired. The cold is not a single thing. It's layers, the bite on your cheeks, the sting in your lungs, the ache in your joints, the dull numbness that tries to take your hands and feet when you stop moving. You stand, and the ground shifts under you. Packed earth, scattered stone, old ash and bits of debris from living, scraps of sinew, broken tool flakes, the dried ends of herbs that were chewed for pain and spit out. Near the fire, a stone blade lies where someone dropped it. It's chipped and sharp. You pick it up, test the edge with your thumb, and feel it catch skin. You don't bleed much. The cold keeps blood slow. You wipe your thumb on your fur and move toward the cave entrance. The cave itself is not a single chamber. It has a front where light reaches and a back where it doesn't. The back is where things are stored and where you go when you're sick and where you go when you don't want to be seen. The ceiling is uneven. In places, it hangs low enough to brush your hair. In places, it rises and disappears into shadow. The walls are rough and damp. When you touch them, your palm comes away wet and cold. The cave smells like people living too close together. Sweat that never fully dries, breath trapped in rock, and the sour tang of hides that have been worn too long. It smells like survival, which means it smells like waste too. You step into the front of the cave and let the outside light hit your eyes. The sky is a washed-out gray blue, streaked with thin cloud. The wind cuts across the valley and doesn't stop. It carries powdered snow that stings your face. The landscape is wide and open, with scattered rock and low scrub that fights to exist. Farther out, the ground rises toward a line of dark shapes, trees or boulders or something else, hard to tell at this distance. Everything looks farther away than it is. The cold does that. It makes the world feel empty. You look down at your hands. The skin is cracked around the knuckles, rough, stained with soot and old blood. The nails are broken. The fingertips are numb, but used to it. These are hands built for scraping hides, striking stone, cutting meat, digging frozen roots, carrying heavy loads. Hands built for doing what must be done. You don't have soft skin. You don't have spare fat. You don't have extra energy. In this world, you spend calories like money you can't replace. Behind you, the cave is waking up. You hear movement. Someone feeds the fire with a piece of wood that pops and throws sparks. Someone coughs, short and sharp, a cough that has been around for days. Another person spits, thick and dark, onto the ground. The sound is casual. Illness is normal here. Injury is normal. Death is normal. It's not a tragedy every time. Sometimes it's just what happens. You crouch near the entrance and scan the valley. The group is small. It has to be. Too many mouths and you starve. Too few and you can't hunt big game or defend yourselves. You have a few strong adults, some older ones who move slower but know more, and a couple of children that are watched closely because the world will take them fast if it gets a chance. Your life is a balance between risk and reward. Go out to hunt, you might die. Stay in, you will die slower. The morning routine begins without words, without ceremony. You don't need speeches. You need food. You need fuel. You need to keep hands busy so fear doesn't take over. Someone checks the tools, stone points, scrapers, a heavy club. Someone checks the hides at the cave mouth where they hang like thick curtains meant to block the wind. They're stiff with ice around the edges. Someone shakes frost off them, and it falls like dust. You smell old meat first, what's left of yesterday's kill, a strip of dried flesh that's been smoked near the fire. It's tough and salty and makes your jaw ache when you chew it. You take a piece and bite down. The flavor is strong, almost rancid at the edges, but it's protein and fat, and it keeps your body from eating itself as fast. You chew slowly, eyes on the outside world. Every bite feels like work. As you eat, you watch the sky. You watch the way cloud layers move. In this time, weather isn't background. Weather is a decision maker. Weather decides if you can travel. Weather decides if you can hunt. Weather decides if your fire survives. Weather decides if the cave becomes a grave. The wind shifts again, more north, colder. You feel it like a hand pressing on your cheek. The hair on your arms lifts, the skin tightens. You squint toward the horizon. There's a faint haze building out there. Not fog, not exactly. More like the air is thickening. Snow in the distance looks like a smear. You've seen that before. It's not always dangerous. Sometimes it passes. Sometimes it becomes the thing you remember for the rest of your life. You turn back inside and move toward the fire. Heat hits your face, and for a moment you feel almost comfortable. Almost. The fire is never big enough. It can't be. Big fires eat wood. Wood is hard to find. You burn what you can. Twigs, driftwood, dried dung, anything that holds flame. Sometimes you burn bone when nothing else is dry. It smells awful and doesn't give much warmth, but it burns. That's what matters. You crouch and hold your hands out. The heat stings the cracks in your skin. You welcome it. You look around at the people nearest the fire. Faces are lean, cheeks hollow, eyes alert even when tired. Hair matted. Some have marks on their skin, old scars, fresh scratches, bruises from yesterday's work. You can tell who is strong right now and who is fading. You can tell who is sick by the way they guard their breath, by the way they avoid moving too much. You can tell who is hungry by the way their gaze keeps drifting toward the meat scraps. You're not the leader of a story. You're just a body that needs to stay warm. You're part of a group, because alone you would already be dead. Alone, you can't keep a fire going while you sleep. Alone, you can't haul a kill back to shelter. Alone, you can't watch for predators while you work. The Ice Age is full of mouths that would gladly take yours out of the world. Even near the cave, you know you're being watched. Tracks in the snow tell you that. Paw prints, wide and deep. Wolf, maybe, or something bigger. You've seen big cats before, low to the ground and silent, eyes like pits. You've heard stories about animals you never see until they're already tearing at you. And you've seen the bone piles outside other caves, places where predators dragged bodies and fed until only skulls and teeth were left. You don't speak those images out loud. You keep them inside and let them shape your caution. As the day moves forward, the group prepares to go out. The hunters, maybe you were one of them, tighten bindings on spear shafts and check stone points for cracks. You test your own gear by feel. Wood is cold and smooth. Sinew binding is stiff. The stone point is sharp enough to cut hair. You adjust the hide strap that will carry it on your back. Everything has a place. Everything has to. If you drop something out there and the wind covers it, it's gone. Before leaving, you glance at the cave again. You memorize it the way you always do. The shape of the entrance, the jagged rock on the left side, the dark streak on the right where smoke has stained it for years. You memorize it because white landscapes make everything look the same. People get lost 5 minutes from safety. People walk in circles until they freeze. Outside, you step into the wind and feel it slam into you. It doesn't just chill you, it pushes you. It drains heat fast. Your eyes water and the tears freeze at the corners. You pull your hood tighter. The fur brushes your cheeks, itchy and damp. You breathe through your nose to warm the air before it hits your lungs. You taste cold and old smoke still clinging in your nostrils. You move with the group across the snow-crusted ground. Each step crunches. Sometimes it cracks under you where ice has formed. Sometimes your foot sinks. Your thighs burn from the effort. You keep moving anyway because stopping is worse. Stopping means your sweat cools. Stopping means your muscles stiffen. Stopping means you start thinking too much. The world is quiet in a way that makes you uneasy. Wind makes noise, yes, but animal noise is rare. Birds don't sing much here. They're into insects buzzing. You don't hear water. You don't smell wet earth. You smell snow and cold and distant wood smoke from your own cave. Sometimes you catch a faint scent of something else, animal musk, a trace of dung, the sharp ammonia of urine left on a rock by a predator marking territory. Those smells are information. You catalog them like tools.
As you walk, the sky keeps changing. The haze thickens. The light flattens even more. The wind becomes steadier, less gusty, like it has found a rhythm. That's not comforting. A steady wind means a system settling in. A steady wind means it might last. You look up and see clouds moving fast, layered and heavy, stacked like dirty wool. The air feels heavier. Your ears pop slightly, pressure shifting. You've felt that before too, right before the world turns mean. You push on because you have to. You need meat. You need fat. You need to bring something back that will burn in the body and keep the children from crying with hunger. You scan for tracks, for disturbed snow, for the faint line of a herd moving over a ridge. But the ground has been swept clean by wind in places, tracks erased as if nothing ever walked there. Hours pass, measured by exertion, not by clocks. Your shoulders ache from carrying tools. Your hands ache from cold. You swing your arms to keep blood moving. The skin on your face feels tight, like it might split if you smile. You don't smile. Eventually you turn back. You have to. The sky is turning darker in the wrong direction, early. The haze is no longer distant. It's in the air around you. Snow begins to fall in fine grains, not flakes. It hits your eyelashes and sticks. You blink and it melts, then freezes again. The wind shifts again, bringing a deeper cold that makes you swallow hard. Your body recognizes it before your mind does. Danger. When you finally see the cave, it's smaller than it should be. The entrance looks like a wound in the rock. Smoke rises from it in a thin thread and then gets torn apart by wind. The sight gives you relief, but it's mixed with something else, an instinctive warning that you might not be able to leave again once you go inside. Shelter can become a closed door. You step back into the cave and warmth hits you like a weak hand. The smell of smoke wraps around you. People look up, checking what you brought, checking your face for news. You don't have much, maybe nothing worth the risk. That's how it goes sometimes. The cave accepts you anyway. The fire is fed. The hides at the entrance are pulled tighter. Someone adds more stone to block gaps. The group settles in as evening comes. And outside, the wind keeps building. Not dramatic yet, not a scream, just a steady increase, like breath drawn in before a shout. Snow gathers along the rocks. The pale sky thickens. The light fades early. You sit near the fire and work your hands, sharpening stone, checking bindings, keeping busy because sitting still lets fear creep in. You hear the cave's small sounds, the pop of wood, the scrape of stone on stone, the soft shift of bodies adjusting hides. You feel the first real sign in your gut, a pressure that says the world is about to change faster than you can respond. You look toward the entrance again. The hides flutter slightly. Fine snow pushes in along the edges like powder through a crack. The wind makes a low sound as it hits the rock face, a constant hum. You don't call it disaster yet. You call it weather. You call it a hard night. You call it something you've survived before. But your body is already saving heat. Your shoulders stay hunched. Your hands stay close to the fire. You keep swallowing because your throat is dry and you know you'll need the moisture. You glance at the fuel pile and see it isn't big. You glance at the meat and see it isn't much.
You look at the children and see their faces pinched and tired. You sit there in the smoke and the half-light, listening to the wind deepen, feeling the cold creep inward through stone and hide, and you realize something simple and brutal. If the storm comes hard, you are going to be trapped. And somewhere out beyond the cave mouth, out in the widening gray, you can almost sense the world already disappearing, as if the ice age is preparing to erase every footprint you leave behind. You wake up with your face turned toward stone. The cave wall is cold enough to numb your cheek through the fur, and the numbness has a sharp edge that makes you blink hard before you even move. Your breath is loud in the tight space, slow, foggy bursts that drift up and disappear into the smoke layer hanging under the ceiling. The fire is still alive, but it's smaller than it was. Its heat doesn't reach you unless you crawl toward it. The air tastes like last night, ash, grease, damp hide, and the sour bite of bodies that haven't truly dried in days. You swallow, and your throat complains. You sit up slowly so your head doesn't spin, and you feel the dull ache in your ribs from sleeping on hard earth that never softens no matter how many furs you stack. You stay still for a moment and listen, because sound tells you what the day is going to cost. There's the wind outside, always present, but right now it's a steady hiss instead of a roar, and that matters. There's a soft scratching near the fire, someone already awake, stirring coals with a stick, trying to coax heat from whatever fuel is left. You hear a cough from deeper in the cave, thick and wet, and then the sound of someone clearing their throat like they're pulling something stubborn out of their chest. A child shifts, makes a small noise, then goes quiet again. No one speaks. No one wastes breath. You don't need words to know the rules. Keep the fire alive. Keep the entrance blocked. Keep the group tight. Keep moving enough to stay warm. Don't wander into the back of the cave unless you have to. You crawl closer to the fire on your knees, careful where you put your hands. The ground is littered with the evidence of living. Old bones crushed into splinters, stone flakes sharp enough to cut skin, clumps of ash that smear black on your palms. Your knees find the cold spots where the earth holds moisture. Your fur drags through it, and the damp creeps upward fast. You get to the ring of stones and hold your hands out, fingers spread. Heat stings the cracks across your knuckles and then settles into them like something poured. You flex your hands slowly until they obey you again. The fire smells wrong when it's low. Less clean smoke, more bitter, more fat burning than wood. You can tell someone has been feeding it scraps, greasy bits of dried tendon, a piece of hide that's too far gone, maybe even bone. Everything burns if you're desperate enough. You look around the cave in the dim light, and you take inventory without meaning to. Who is near the fire? Who is pushed back into the colder edges? Who is curled in a way that looks too still? Who has frost on their hair from breathing in the dark? You watch the older ones first, because they're the first to slip if the cold wins. You watch the children next, because they can't hide how hungry they are. Their faces look sharper every day, cheeks hollowing, eyes too big, hands tucked under armpits to keep fingers alive. The cave itself feels different in daylight. Not safer, just more visible. The front chamber catches gray light from outside, enough to show the soot-black ceiling and the streaks where smoke has been crawling up the rock for years. The walls are uneven, wet in places, with little pockets that hold moisture and drip slow. The floor slopes slightly toward the entrance, which means meltwater can run in if the weather shifts warmer for even a day. In the back, darkness swallows detail. That's where you store things you don't want mice or scavengers getting into. That's where you keep the good stone, the spare hides, the dried herbs. That's also where you put the things you don't want near the fire, the waste, the sick, the dead, until you can deal with them. You glance toward the mouth of the cave. Hides hang there like a thick curtain, stiff at the edges with ice. The wind pushes them and they thump softly against rock. Powdered snow has worked its way in along the bottom, forming a thin white line across the dirt like a warning. Someone has stacked rocks at the corners to reduce the gaps. Someone has jammed moss into cracks. The cave is a machine you keep patching. It is never perfect. The outside is always trying to get in. You shift closer to the fire and start working, because work keeps you warm and keeps you from thinking too far ahead. You pick up a stone core and a hammerstone. Your hands know the rhythm. Strike, rotate, strike again. The sound is sharp, clean, and it echoes off the rock in a way that makes your teeth vibrate. Flakes pop off, thin and dangerous. One skitters away and you track it with your eyes so you don't step on it later. A good flake can become a scraper. A good blade can mean the difference between a clean hide and wasted meat. Tools aren't a craft project. They're time saved, energy saved, blood not spilled. As you work, you smell the people around you. It's not a moral thing, it's information. Someone smells sour and sweet, fever. Someone smells like old meat, hunger. Someone smells sharp and acrid, fear sweat that comes out even when it's cold. You smell yourself too, smoke, grime, and the faint metallic tang of dried blood under your nails. The day inside the cave is slow. It has to be. You can't afford frantic movement. You can't afford arguments. You conserve everything: food, fuel, strength, patience. Someone takes a strip of dried meat and passes it around, measured. Small bites. Chew until it turns to paste, because your body needs every bit of it. The fat is the real prize. Fat is warmth. Fat is brain function. Fat is what keeps you from feeling like your thoughts are moving through mud. You swallow and feel it land heavy in your stomach, then spread out as heat minutes later.
You keep your eyes on the fire as much as you keep them on the cave entrance. Fire is your heart right now. Without it, the cave becomes just another hole in the rock where cold can collect. You watch the coals, the way they glow when someone stirs them, the way ash forms a skin that has to be broken to let oxygen in. You watch the fuel pile and you hate how small it looks. A few sticks, some dried chunks of something that might be dung, splintered wood that smells old and wet. Not enough for a long night, let alone nights stacked on top of each other. You stand and move toward the entrance to check the weather, because you need to know whether you can leave today. The moment you get closer, the temperature drops like you stepped into another world. The wind finds the gaps and hits your face. It smells like snow and distance, clean and brutal. Outside, the valley is washed in pale light. The sky is not clear. Clouds move fast, layered and thick, the kind that don't just bring snow, they bring endurance snow, the kind that doesn't stop when you want it to stop. You squint and scan the ridgeline. You don't see animals. You don't see birds. You see a landscape that looks empty in a way that makes your gut tighten. The wind is steady, not gusty. That's worse. It means the system has settled in. It means this is not a passing mood. You step back inside and the cave feels warmer by comparison, even though it isn't warm. That contrast is dangerous. It tricks you into thinking you're safe. You're not safe. You are temporarily not dead. Time passes in tasks that repeat. You scrape a hide. The hide is stiff and smells like old blood and smoke. You work the inside with a stone scraper, pulling away dried tissue, smoothing it, making it flexible enough to wrap around a body. The scraping sound is constant, like teeth grinding. The work makes your shoulders burn, your wrists ache, but it also makes warmth. You can feel sweat start under your arms, and you stop before it gets too much, because sweat is death later when you cool down. You take a moment to check your own gear. You run your fingers along your spear shaft, feel for cracks. You tug at the sinew bindings. They're tight but brittle from cold. You flex them gently to keep them from snapping. You check the stone point. It's sharp. It's chipped at one corner. You decide whether it's worth reworking now or saving energy. Every decision is like that. Fix now, spend calories. Wait, risk failure when it matters. Deeper in the cave, someone tends to the children, rubbing their hands, pushing them closer to heat, making sure they eat. You can't let children drop in temperature. Once they start shivering hard, it's already bad. Once they stop shivering, it's worse. You watch for that without meaning to. You watch for lips turning blue, for eyes that stop tracking movement, for the blank stare that comes when the body is giving up. You've seen it before. You hate that you know what it looks like.
The smell of the cave shifts as the day wears on. Smoke thickens as someone adds damp fuel. It makes your eyes sting. It makes your head throb. You rub your nose and black soot stains your skin. The air is so constant with smoke that when you do step outside later, the clean, cold air will feel like pain in your lungs. But smoke is also a signal. Smoke says life. Smoke says people. Smoke can draw help or draw predators. Out here, the same thing can save you or kill you, depending on who sees it. You sit near the fire again and let your mind drift just enough to notice the cave wall beside you. There are marks there. Not pretty, not decorative. Lines cut into rock by someone's stone long ago. A handprint smeared in soot. A scratch pattern that could be counting days or just testing a blade. You stare at it and feel the weight of time in a way that is not romantic. Other people sat here before you. Other people froze here. Other people thought they had another hunt, another season, another chance. The cave remembers all of them in soot and stains and bones buried under dirt. Outside, the light begins to change early. The day shortens like it's being stolen. The gray becomes darker. The wind picks up just a little. Not enough to make you panic, enough to make you notice. Enough to make the hides at the entrance flutter harder and snap against rock. Fine snow starts to sift in again, carried through cracks like powder. Someone gets up and presses more moss into gaps, packs it with fingers already stiff. Someone drags another stone into place. The movements are quick and practiced, and that practice itself scares you. You've done this before. You've done this because storms have trapped you before, because winter has teeth and it likes to test you. You check the fuel again, still not enough. You check the food, still thin. You check the people, tired faces, quiet eyes. No one says what everyone is thinking. If the storm comes hard, you won't be able to leave. If you can't leave, you can't hunt. If you can't hunt, the cave becomes a waiting room for death. Your body reacts before your mind does. Your shoulders stay tense. You keep your hands near your core when you walk. You keep your breathing controlled. You don't waste heat with unnecessary motion. You find yourself watching the entrance more often, like you expect the world to show you its next move. As night approaches, the cave shifts into its evening pattern. People pull furs tighter. They settle closer to each other, building a wall of bodies against cold. The fire is fed carefully because you want it to last. You don't throw everything on at once. You ration flame the way you ration meat. A small stick now, a scrap of fat-soaked material later. You keep the coals protected because coals are future fire. Coals are tomorrow morning. You lie down with your back to someone else's back, sharing heat without touching faces. Your breath warms the air inside your hood. Your nose is cold anyway. Your feet feel like blocks of wood. You flex them and feel pins and needles. The ache in your joints becomes a dull background noise. You stare at the ceiling where smoke pools. You watch it drift. You watch it smear across rock. You listen to the wind outside, and you notice that it isn't fading with night like it sometimes does. It's building a steadier voice. The sound changes from hiss to a deeper, continuous push. You can hear snow hitting the hides at the entrance like dry sand. You close your eyes and try to sleep, because sleep saves energy, but your body doesn't trust the night. You keep waking to small changes, the fire popping, someone shifting, a cough that goes on too long. In the half-waking moments, your mind tries to imagine the next day. It tries to picture going out. It tries to picture finding animals. It tries to picture coming back with meat and laughing and relief. But the wind keeps pressing, and the cave keeps breathing smoke, and the line of snow creeping inward at the entrance keeps getting thicker. You finally drift into a shallow sleep that doesn't feel like rest. It feels like your body shutting down functions to conserve heat. And outside, in the dark you can't see, The sky is filling. The clouds are stacking. The cold is sharpening. The storm is not here yet, not fully, but it is coming with patience. And patience is what kills you in this world.
You wake up to pressure before you wake up to sound. Your ears feel full, like something heavy is sitting on your head, and for a moment you don't know where you are. Then the wind announces itself. Not a gust, not a howl, but a constant grinding force that vibrates through stone. It's loud enough that it feels physical. You open your eyes and see the cave ceiling shudder with shadow as smoke is pushed flat against it. The fire is alive, but it looks wrong. The flames lean sideways, pulled toward the entrance, stretched thin like they're being dragged out of the cave by invisible hands. You sit up too fast, and your head swims. The air is colder than it was when you fell asleep. Not just colder, moving. You can feel it sliding along the ground, crawling over your ankles, finding skin. The hides at the cave mouth are snapping now, not fluttering. Each snap is sharp, a dry crack of hide hitting stone. Snow is coming in through gaps that weren't gaps yesterday. It skims across the floor in thin sheets and piles against the backs of people who haven't moved yet. You listen harder, because the sound outside has changed again. It's no longer just wind. There's a deeper note under it, a low roar that rises and falls without rhythm. Snow is hitting rock with force now. You can hear it scraping, piling, collapsing, piling again. The cave isn't quiet enough for you to hear individual flakes, but you can hear the storm building mass, the way it presses and presses until even stone feels small. You get to your feet and immediately feel how much the temperature has dropped overnight. Your breath is white and thick. It doesn't drift up gently anymore. It shoots out of you and disappears fast, torn apart by drafts. You pull your fur tighter, and your fingers fumble with the edges because they're already stiff. Someone near the fire is awake and feeding it carefully, but the heat barely pushes back the cold now. The firelight looks weaker, not because the fire is smaller, but because the dark is heavier. You move toward the entrance with others because instinct says you need to see it, even though seeing it won't help. The hides are bowed inward, pushed by wind so strong it makes the wooden supports creak. Fine snow sprays through every seam. It coats the ground, the tools, the furs. It settles into hair and beards and eyelashes. You brush it away and your hand comes back wet and numb. You peel back one edge of the hide just enough to look out, and the world is gone. There is no valley anymore, no ridgeline, no landmarks, just white movement. Snow comes at you sideways, dense and fast, like the air itself has turned solid. The sky and the ground are the same color, the same texture, the same violence. Distance doesn't exist. You can't tell where the cave ends and the storm begins. The wind slams into your face so hard your eyes water instantly, and the tears freeze before they can fall. You taste snow and cold metal and panic. You let the hide fall back into place and step away, heart pounding. This isn't a storm you wait out outside. This isn't a storm you hunt through. This is the kind of storm that erases paths in minutes, that buries bodies before they cool, that turns familiar ground into a maze with no exits. This is the kind of storm that doesn't care if you're strong or smart or careful. Inside the cave, movement increases. People are awake now, not panicked yet, but alert in the way animals get when pressure drops and danger moves closer. Someone drags more stone toward the entrance, stacking it higher, sealing gaps. Someone shoves moss into cracks until their fingers bleed. Someone else pulls a child closer to the fire and rubs their arms hard enough to leave red marks. The cave fills with the sound of breathing, scraping, shifting, and the constant thunder of wind just outside. You feel it settle in your gut. You are not leaving today. The decision isn't spoken. It doesn't need to be. You don't fight this kind of storm. You survive it, or it takes you. That means the cave is now everything. Shelter, prison, tomb if it comes to that. You take stock fast, because now every count matters. Fuel, food, bodies. You look at the fuel pile, and your jaw tightens. It looked small yesterday. Today it looks like a mistake. A few sticks, some dried dung, a bundle of brittle roots, bone fragments that will burn dirty and fast. Not enough if this lasts more than a day. And storms like this don't come for one night. They come to test how long you can endure being still. The fire is fed again, carefully. Too much and you waste fuel. Too little and the coals die. Someone stirs them, shields them with a flat stone to keep wind from pulling heat away. Smoke thickens and drops lower. It fills your nose and throat. Your eyes sting. You cough once and stop yourself because coughing wastes heat and draws attention to weakness. The air in the cave changes quickly. It becomes damp from breath and melting snow. Cold moisture clings to everything. Your fur grows heavier as it absorbs it. Wet cold is worse than dry. Wet cold pulls heat out of you faster and leaves you shaking. You shift position constantly, trying to stay dry, but there's nowhere to go. The cave floor darkens as snow melts into mud and ash. Hours pass, measured only by the way your body feels. Hunger doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps, a hollow ache behind your ribs, a tightness that makes you irritable. You chew on nothing just to keep your jaw moving. Someone passes around a small piece of dried meat. You take your share, and it's barely enough to coat your tongue with fat, but you make it last. You chew until your jaw aches. You swallow and feel it disappear, doing its work quietly, inefficiently. The storm doesn't weaken. It gets louder. The sound outside deepens like something massive is moving back and forth across the valley, grinding snow into stone. The cave shudders now and then as gusts hit it at the right angle. Fine dust falls from the ceiling. You watch it drift down through firelight and land on skin, on food, on tools. You wipe it away, and it comes back. The cave is slowly filling with the outside world whether you like it or not. You start to feel the pressure in your chest, not pain, weight. Breathing takes effort. The air feels thick with smoke and cold. You take shallow breaths without thinking. Someone nearby starts coughing again, harder this time, and the sound echoes in the confined space. You glance at them and see the strain in their face, the way they hunch forward like they're protecting something fragile inside their ribs. The children are restless now. Cold makes them squirm. Hunger makes them whine. Someone soothes them with touch, with pressure, with rhythmic motion. You're careful not to look at their hands too long. They're small, too small for this. The fire dips suddenly as a gust forces air through the entrance gaps. Flames flatten and gutter. For a terrifying second, it looks like the fire might go out. Everyone reacts at once. Someone shields it with their body despite the heat. Someone else throws on fuel that should have been saved. The fire catches again, flaring bright and hot, and for a moment relief washes through you. Then you feel the cost. Fuel burned too fast. Smoke thickens. Heat spikes and then fades. You smell bone burning, sharp, sour, wrong. You know that smell will linger. You know it will coat your lungs. As the day, or what passes for day, drags on, exhaustion sets in. Not the kind you sleep off, the kind that settles into your muscles and makes every movement feel like lifting stone. You sit close to the fire and still feel cold. You pull your fur tighter and still feel drafts. The cave is losing the battle against the storm inch by inch. You notice small things going wrong. A binding snaps on someone's boot when the sinew contracts from cold. A stone falls from the entrance stack and leaves a new gap for snow to pour through.
Someone slips on the muddy floor and bruises their hip hard enough to hiss through their teeth. Injuries matter more now. Healing costs energy you don't have. You keep checking the entrance, even though you know it's pointless. Each time you pull back the hide, the storm looks the same. White violence, no depth, no mercy. Snow has piled higher outside. You can tell by the way the hides bow inward more than before. If this keeps up, you'll have to dig your way out just to breathe. The realization hits you slowly and then all at once. This is no longer just about staying warm. This is about staying alive long enough for the storm to pass. You start thinking in hours. How many hours of fuel you have, how many hours the fire can be kept alive, how many hours before hunger makes people weak, how many hours before cold starts doing permanent damage, fingers going numb and never coming back, toes turning black, skin dying quietly. Night falls without ceremony. The cave grows darker, the fire the only real light. Shadows jump and stretch across the walls, making shapes your brain doesn't like. You blink and they move. You tell yourself it's just firelight and exhaustion. You keep your eyes on something solid, the stone ring, the ground, your hands.
The storm does not quiet with night. If anything, it grows more confident. The wind howls now, rising and falling in waves that make your chest vibrate. Snow pounds the cave mouth. You hear a dull thump outside, snow collapsing from somewhere above the entrance. Your stomach tightens. If the entrance seals completely, you'll have to dig from inside, fighting cold and panic and lack of air. You lie down because sitting burns too much energy. You press your back against another body, share heat without speaking. Your breathing syncs with theirs without effort. You can feel their ribs expand and contract. You focus on that rhythm because it reminds you that you're not alone yet. Sleep comes in fragments. You wake to the sound of the fire shifting. You wake to someone crying softly and being hushed. You wake to the feeling of snow melting against your leg where it's crept too close. Each time you wake, the cold feels deeper, more settled. At some point in the night, you wake with the sense that something fundamental has changed. The cave feels tighter, the air feels thinner. You sit up and see why. Snow has piled halfway up the hides at the entrance. The bottom edge is buried. The gaps are sealed by ice and packed powder. Wind still forces its way in through higher cracks, but the sound is different now, muffled, heavy. The storm has started to bury you. You don't panic. Panic wastes energy. Instead, a slow, heavy understanding spreads through you. If the storm keeps going like this, you will be entombed, alive, breathing smoke and cold, waiting for either rescue or suffocation or starvation. You look around the firelight at the people near you. Their faces look older than they did yesterday. Lines deeper, eyes sunken. Everyone knows it now, even if no one says it. The sky has changed its voice, and the world outside has turned hostile in a way that can't be outrun. You pull your fur tighter. You tuck your hands under your arms. You watch the fire like it's a living thing you have to keep alive with attention alone. Outside, the storm keeps building its walls. And inside the cave, you settle in for the long night, knowing this is no longer about endurance. It's about how much suffering you can absorb before something breaks. You wake up to a cave that feels wrong. Not colder at first, quieter. The kind of quiet that comes when something expected hasn't happened yet. The fire is still alive, reduced to a bed of coals with a few weak tongues of flame licking upward, but no one is feeding it. The light is low and red, and it makes everyone's skin look darker, thinner, like it's already pulling away from bone. You stay still for a moment, listening, counting breaths that aren't yours. There should be movement by now. There should be people getting ready. There should be the scrape of stone on stone, the soft grunt of bodies rising from the ground.
the sound of someone checking the entrance. Instead, there's only the storm, still pushing, still grinding snow against rock, and the slow, uneven breathing of those who slept too lightly to rest. You sit up, and your joints protest immediately. Cold has settled into them overnight, deeper than before. Your knees feel thick and stiff, like they've been packed with dirt. You flex your fingers and feel pain bloom and then fade into numbness. The air smells heavier. Smoke has nowhere to go now. It presses down on your face, your lungs. You swallow and feel the scratch of soot in your throat. You look toward the entrance and your stomach tightens. The hides are barely visible. Snow has climbed higher during the night, packed tight by wind, turned into something closer to ice. The cave mouth is no longer an opening. It's a seal, a partial one, but enough to change everything. Light leaks in only through thin cracks near the top, a pale, sickly gray that does nothing to warm the stone. Someone stirs near the fire, an older body, slow to move. They cough once, sharp and dry, and you hear the sound echo off the walls. It sounds too loud in the enclosed space. They don't look at you. They don't need to. You both know the same thing. The hunters should have returned by now. Not all of them went out yesterday. Only a few. The strongest, the ones who knew the land best, the ones who could read wind and track through bad conditions. They left early before the storm fully showed its teeth, carrying spears and hope and just enough confidence to be dangerous. They were supposed to be back before nightfall, or at worst by first light. They weren't. You didn't panic last night. Storms delay people, paths disappear, wind lies. You told yourself that. Everyone did. But now it's morning, if morning still exists, and there's still no sign of them. No shapes moving through the white. No sound beyond the storm. No smoke signal. Nothing. You stand and move toward the entrance with care. The ground near it is slick now, mud and ash mixed with milt water. You brace yourself against the wall and peer upward through a narrow gap where light forces its way in. Snow is still falling, though not as violently as before. It moves sideways, driven by wind that hasn't let go yet. Outside, everything is buried. The world looks smoothed over, like a wound that scabbed too fast. If the hunters were out there when the storm peaked, they would have lost the land in minutes. No tracks, no markers, no sense of direction. White on white on white. Even knowing the terrain wouldn't save you. The cold would take fingers first, then toes, then judgment. You imagine them stopping to rest, telling themselves they'll just wait a moment, just let the wind ease. You imagine them sitting down. You force yourself to stop thinking that far. Behind you, the cave wakes fully. People sit up. They look around. Eyes go first to the fire, then to the entrance, then to each other. No one asks where the hunters are. The question hangs in the air anyway, thick as smoke. The fire needs feeding. You crouch and add a small piece of fuel, too small to matter long term, but enough to keep the coals alive. The flame flares briefly, then settles. You watch it and feel a bitter resentment toward how much attention it demands. Fire was never meant to be begged, but here you are, pleading with sticks and scraps. Food is passed around, smaller portions than yesterday. There's no argument, no hesitation. You chew slowly, feeling your stomach tighten as it realizes this isn't enough. Hunger sharpens your thoughts in the wrong direction. You catch yourself counting how many people are in the cave now, how many mouths, how many bodies making heat. You don't like where that line of thinking leads, so you stop. Time stretches. The storm eases slightly, enough that the wind's roar softens into a heavy, constant push. Snow still falls, but more gently. That should be good news. It isn't. Gentle snow still buries things. Gentle snow is patient. Someone suggests, without words, just movement,
that the entrance needs clearing. If it seals completely, you'll lose air. You grab a flat piece of bone and start scraping at the packed snow near the bottom of the hides. It's harder than it looks. The snow has fused into ice where wind pressed it tight. Your arms burn quickly. Cold makes every motion cost more. Your breath comes fast and fogs the little space you've opened. You work in shifts because no one can do it long. You scrape, someone else takes over. Snow falls inward in small avalanches, soaking furs, chilling legs. Meltwater runs back toward the fire and hisses softly when it hits hot stone. The cave smells like wet ash now. It clings to everything. As you work, you keep glancing out through the widening gap, scanning the blank white beyond. You're not expecting to see the hunters walk in. You're hoping to see anything that proves the world still has edges. A rock, a tree, a shape that isn't snow. You see nothing. Hours pass. The light outside shifts slightly, but it's hard to tell if it's the sun or just clouds thinning. The storm is loosening its grip, but it has already done its damage. You know this kind of weather. It doesn't kill fast. It isolates. It delays. It makes rescue impossible even when survival is still technically on the table.
The realization settles in slowly, like cold through wet hide. The hunters aren't coming back today. You feel it in the way people stop checking the entrance as often, in the way the fire is fed more carefully, each piece of fuel considered and reconsidered before it's committed, in the way no one talks about leaving, even when the wind slackens enough that you might have once. If the hunters are alive, they're trapped somewhere else, sheltering the way you are, with less protection, fewer people, and no fire big enough to matter. If they're dead, you don't finish that thought. Late in the day, someone goes still near the back of the cave. At first, you think they're just resting. Exhaustion does that. You don't notice until someone else reaches out to shake them and stops halfway, hand hovering, uncertain. You watch from where you sit. You already know. The body is slumped awkwardly, chin against chest, arms loose, too loose. When they're touched, there's no response, no flinch, no breath. Someone presses fingers to the side of their neck and waits longer than necessary. The cave feels smaller while they wait. The storm outside feels louder. They don't wake up. No one cries out. There's no scream, no collapse. Death here isn't dramatic. It's quiet and inconvenient. The body is still warm, which makes it worse. It means this just happened. It means the cave failed them without warning. You look at their face. Their lips are pale. Their eyes are half-lidded, unfocused. You recognize the signs now. The cough from last night. The way they guarded their chest. Smoke and cold and exhaustion stacked up and tipped the balance. Their body chose to stop. The body is moved carefully, not out of respect, but because stiffness comes fast in this cold. You lay them near the back, away from the fire, away from where children can see too clearly. A hide is pulled over their face. The cave absorbs this new reality without ceremony. Now the count changes. You feel it immediately. One less source of heat, one less body sharing warmth, one less set of hands. The math shifts in your head whether you want it to or not. Survival is arithmetic now. Night comes again earlier than it should, or maybe it just feels that way because morale is dropping faster than the temperature. The storm outside has weakened enough that the wind no longer screams, but snow continues to fall, relentless. The entrance gap you cleared earlier is already narrowing again, filled with fresh drifts. The world is undoing your work without effort. You sit near the fire and stare at the coals. They look smaller than they did yesterday. You know they're not.
You're just more aware of how fragile they are. You feed the fire and feel a surge of anger when the flame jumps, bright and eager, then settles back into weakness. You want it to fight harder. You want it to win. It doesn't care what you want.
The children are quieter tonight. Hunger and cold have worn them down. That scares you more than crying would. Quiet means energy is being conserved because there's nothing left to spend. You lie down again, back to back with someone else, sharing heat. Your body feels heavier, not just tired, weighted, like gravity has increased. You close your eyes and try to sleep, but your mind keeps circling the same thought. The hunters aren't here. Without them, you have less food coming, less strength, less chance. Even if they survived the storm, even if they're sheltering somewhere, the land between you is erased, paths buried, markers gone. They might be close, they might be days away. Distance doesn't matter when you can't see. At some point in the night, you wake to a sound that isn't wind. It's a soft scraping near the entrance, snow shifting, something settling. Your heart jumps before your mind can catch up. You sit up, breath held, listening. Nothing follows, just the storm, softer now, almost deceptive. You let the breath out slowly. Morning comes again, or something like it. The light filtering in is a little stronger. The storm is finally easing. Snow still falls, but lazily, without the violence of before. The wind has dropped to a low moan. The world feels like it's catching its breath. You clear more snow from the entrance. The work is easier now. The packed ice has loosened. Light spills in, gray but real. For the first time since the storm began, you can see more than a few feet outside the cave. You scan the landscape desperately. There are no people out there, no movement, no dark shapes against the white, no sign that anyone has passed through since the storm ended. The snow is smooth and unbroken except for drifts and ridges carved by wind. If the hunters were out there, the storm has swallowed every trace of them. The truth lands fully now, heavy and unavoidable. The hunt did not return. Whatever happened to them, lost, buried, frozen, scattered, it happened beyond your reach. The cave is all you have left. The people inside it are all who remain. You step back from the entrance and feel something inside you harden. Not resolve, not courage, something colder, something that understands that survival just became narrower, sharper, and more brutal. This wasn't just bad weather. This was the beginning of the real disaster.
You wake up hungry in a way that feels different from before. This isn't the dull, familiar emptiness you've lived with your whole life. This hunger has weight. It presses inward, tightens your chest, sharpens your thoughts until everything else feels like noise. Your eyes open, and your first instinct isn't to listen to the storm or check the fire. It's to think about food. Your body does it before you can stop it. The cave is dim and still. The fire has been reduced to a low glow, more ember than flame, guarded like something sacred. No one rushes to feed it this time. Everyone is waiting. Waiting costs less energy than moving. The air is thick with smoke and breath, and something else, an underlying sourness that wasn't there days ago. Bodies that aren't getting enough food start to smell different. You recognize it because you've smelled it on others before. You've smelled it on yourself. You sit up slowly. Your head feels light, like it's floating just above your shoulders. When you stand, black spots flicker at the edges of your vision, and you have to brace a hand against the cave wall until the world steadies. Your muscles feel smaller somehow, less responsive, as if something essential has already been burned away. You scan the cave out of habit. The body in the back hasn't moved.
It won't. The hide over it is stiff now, the outline unmistakable. You look away quickly, not out of respect, but because your mind is already doing something dangerous. It's counting. It's calculating how much heat that body used to give off, how much food it used to need. Hunger makes your thoughts slippery and cruel. The entrance is clearer today. The storm has loosened its grip, leaving behind a buried world. Pale light spills into the cave and reveals how much snow crept in while you slept. The floor is wet and cold. Furs are damp. Boots are stiff with ice. Everything takes longer now. Every task feels heavier. Food is passed around late. No one rushes. When it finally happens, the portions are smaller than yesterday's, and yesterday's were already too small. A strip of dried meat is divided again and again until each piece feels like an insult. You hold yours between finger and thumb, and it barely has weight. You bring it to your mouth anyway. You chew slowly. You have to. If you swallow too fast, your stomach cramps in protest. The meat is tough, fibrous, nearly tasteless now. You suck at it to draw out whatever fat remains. You imagine warmth spreading from it, imagine strength returning, but nothing happens. Hunger doesn't retreat. It watches you from inside, patient.
Your stomach makes a sound. You press a hand against it instinctively, embarrassed even though everyone else's bodies are doing the same thing. Hunger is loud when you can't answer it. It sharpens smells. You notice the faint, maddening scent of old grease clinging to a stone near the fire. You catch the smell of a hide that was once fresh, and imagine what it would taste like if you boiled it long enough. The thought comes uninvited, and you don't like how quickly it settles in. You keep busy because stillness makes the hunger worse. You scrape snow away from the entrance again, not because it needs it, but because movement distracts you. Your arms feel weak faster than they should. After only a few minutes, your shoulders burn and your breath comes too fast. You stop before sweat forms. Sweat is dangerous now. Sweat steals heat you can't afford to lose. Someone else takes over without a word. You trade places. Everyone rotates through small tasks like this, spreading the cost. No one does anything for long. It's a quiet agreement born of shared desperation. As the hours crawl by, hunger starts changing the way you see the people around you. Faces look sharper. Movements look slower. You notice trembling hands, not from cold alone. You notice how often people lick their lips, how often eyes drift toward the back of the cave where supplies are stored, even though everyone knows there's nothing there that isn't already accounted for. The fire shrinks again. Fuel is added sparingly. Each piece is considered, weighed in the mind against how long it might burn and how much smoke it will make. Someone suggests, only with a glance, that bone might be used again tonight. No one argues. Bone burns poorly, but it burns. The smell when it catches is awful, sharp and greasy and wrong. It makes your stomach twist. For a moment, nausea rises, and you welcome it because it pushes hunger aside. But it passes quickly, and hunger comes back stronger, annoyed at the interruption. By afternoon, your thoughts begin to slow, not dramatically, just enough that it takes longer to decide what to do next. You find yourself staring at the cave wall, at a crack in the stone, at nothing, and losing time. When you blink, you don't know how long your eyes were closed. Your body is conserving energy by dulling your mind. That's when the thoughts start slipping. You remember meals from seasons ago with unnatural clarity. The sound of fat sizzling, the smell of fresh blood on snow, the way warm meat steamed in the cold air. Your mouth fills with saliva and you swallow hard. You shake your head slightly, trying to push the memories away, but they cling. Hunger doesn't let go easily. You glance again toward the body in the back of the cave. The hide covering it looks thicker now, more substantial than it did before.
The thought hits you so suddenly it steals your breath, and you hate yourself for not being shocked by it. You turn away immediately, heart pounding, ashamed, and terrified of where your mind is going. This is the peak of suffering you were warned about as a child, though no one ever named it like that. The point where hunger stops being pain and starts being persuasion. The cave grows quieter as the day wears on. Talking wastes energy. Even shifting position too often feels costly. People sit hunched, wrapped tight in furs, eyes half-lidded. Children are pressed between adults to share heat. One of them whimpers softly and is hushed with a hand and a murmur. The sound grates on your nerves more than it should. Everything does. The fire pops suddenly and throws a spark. Your body reacts too fast, flinching, heart racing. You realize your nerves are raw. Hunger has stripped away your buffer. Everything feels closer to the surface. You feel cold differently now, too. It seeps deeper. Your fingers ache constantly. Your toes burn and then go numb and then burn again. You flex them, stamp lightly when you think no one is watching. The cold doesn't leave. It waits. Late in the day, someone tries to eat too fast. You hear it before you see it, a sharp inhale, a gagging sound. They double over, coughing, choking on food their body can't process yet. Someone steadies them, rubs their back until it passes. The lesson sinks in. Hunger makes you reckless. Recklessness kills. When night comes, it feels heavier than before. Darkness presses in, as if the cave has sunk deeper into the earth. The fire is barely more than glowing stones now, but no one adds more fuel yet. You wait. You all wait. The night is long, and resources are short. You lie down beside someone whose ribs you can feel through their fur. They feel smaller than they did days ago. You probably do too. Your stomach cramps sharply, then settles into a dull ache that never fully fades. Sleep comes in thin strips. You drift off and snap awake again, heart racing for no reason you can name. At some point, you dream of eating. Not feasting, just eating until the ache stops. You wake with your teeth clenched and your jaw sore from chewing nothing. Your mouth is dry. Your tongue feels thick. You swallow, and there's no relief. The night drags on, measured by hunger pangs and the slow dimming of the coals. When someone finally feeds the fire again, the flame flares weakly, illuminating hollow faces and tired eyes. For a moment, the light feels almost cruel, showing too much. You realize then that hunger has changed the rules. Cold and storm were enemies you understood. Hunger is quieter. It doesn't announce itself. It waits until you're tired, until you're weak, until you're alone with your thoughts. As you close your eyes again, stomach gnawing, one truth settles in with frightening clarity. If the storm took the hunters, hunger is coming for the rest of you, and hunger doesn't miss. You wake up because the cold has changed again, not sharper, closer. It feels like it's moved inside the cave while you were asleep, like it's no longer pressing from the outside but rising up from the ground itself. Your eyes open to darkness, broken only by a faint red glow where the fire used to be stronger. Now it's just coals, dull and uneven, like the last pulse of something dying. You don't move right away. Moving costs too much. You stay still and listen, counting breaths again, making sure the cave still has enough sound to mean life. Breathing is there, but it's thinner, slower. The kind of breathing people fall into when they're conserving energy without choosing to. Someone nearby shivers in short, violent bursts, teeth clicking softly. No one tells them to stop. Shivering is heat. Shivering means the body hasn't given up yet. You sit up eventually, because lying still too long lets the cold win. Your joints protest more loudly now. It feels like rust has formed inside them overnight. When you flex your fingers, the skin across your knuckles splits again, reopening cracks that never really healed. You suck in air through your teeth and taste iron. The fire is the first thing you look at. It always is. Today, it looks wrong. The coals are scattered, smaller, dimmer. Ash has settled thick over them, choking what little heat remains. Someone should have stirred them in the night. Someone should have fed it. But fuel is almost gone, and everyone knows it. You crouch by the fire and hold your hands over the coals. There's warmth there, but it feels weak, like it's embarrassed to be noticed. You rub your hands together, slow and deliberate, because friction is the only thing you can make without burning resources. The heat barely reaches your palms before it fades. The smell in the cave has shifted again. Less smoke now, more cold stone, damp earth, the faint sweet sour smell of unwashed bodies that aren't sweating anymore. You realize that the fire shrinking hasn't just made the cave colder, it's made the air heavier. Smoke no longer rises and escapes the way it did. It lingers, trapped, settling into your lungs. Someone near you coughs and can't stop. The sound is wet and deep. It goes on too long. You feel your shoulders tighten as if bracing for something inevitable. The coughing finally slows, turns into wheezing breaths that don't sound like they're pulling in enough air. No one speaks. Everyone listens.
Fuel is gathered from the edges of the cave. Not much. A few splinters, a piece of dried dung. Someone brings a fragment of bone, pale and brittle. You watch it placed on the coals, and you feel something like grief when it starts to burn. Bone is last resort fuel. Bone means you're out of options. The smell hits immediately, sharp, greasy, unmistakable. It makes your stomach roll. It makes your eyes water. The fire flares slightly, brightening the cave for a moment, and in that moment you see how much everyone has changed in just a few days. Faces are drawn tight. Eyes are sunken, lips cracked and dark. Children look older and smaller at the same time. The flame doesn't last. Bone burns fast and dirty. The light fades again, leaving behind thicker smoke and less heat than before. The fire has given you almost nothing and taken something from you in return. You feel fear settle in your chest, cold and heavy. Not panic, it's loud. This is quieter. This is the understanding that the fire is losing, and if the fire loses, everything else follows. The entrance is checked again. Snow has stopped falling, but the world outside is buried and silent. The sky is a pale, dead color, the kind that reflects no warmth. Light spills into the cave, but it's useless. You scrape away more packed snow from the lower edge of the hides, widening the gap just enough to let in air. Cold air rushes in immediately, stealing what little warmth the cave still has. It's a trade you have to make. Breath or heat. You choose breath. The wind outside is calmer now, but the damage is done. Drifts rise higher than your waist in places. Landmarks are gone. Everything looks unfamiliar, even though you've walked this ground for years. The idea of leaving the cave feels wrong now. Not dangerous, impossible. The cave has become the center of the world because it has to be. You step back inside and pull the hides closed again, sealing in what little warmth remains. The cave feels smaller every time you do this. The walls seem closer, the ceiling lower. You imagine smoke pressing down until it's at eye level, until breathing becomes work. Hunger is still there, gnawing, but it has faded into something duller. Your body is shifting priorities. Warmth first, air second, food somewhere further down the list. Your stomach cramps occasionally, sharp and sudden, but you barely react anymore. Pain has become background noise. People stop doing unnecessary tasks. Tools lie where they were last set down. Scraping stops, sharpening stops. Movement is reduced to the minimum required to stay alive. You notice how often people sit with their heads bowed, eyes closed, not sleeping, just conserving. The fire drops again. Someone stirs the coals, hoping to wake them, but there's nothing left to wake. The glow dims to a faint red smear. You lean closer and feel almost nothing on your skin. A thought forms in your mind, uninvited and terrifying. What if you let it go out? It's not a plan, it's a question. What if you stopped feeding it entirely and let the cave go cold? What if you bundled together and tried to survive on shared body heat alone? The thought scares you because it makes a kind of sense, and sense is dangerous right now. You push it away and add the last usable scrap of fuel you can find. A thin stick. It catches reluctantly, flames weak and flickering. The fire lives, but only barely. You've extended its life by minutes, not hours. The coughing starts again, louder this time. It comes from the same place in the cave. You glance over and see the person slumped forward, shoulders shaking. Their face is gray. Sweat beads on their forehead, even though the cave is cold. That's a bad sign. You know it without thinking. They stop coughing suddenly, replaced by shallow, rasping breaths. Each one sounds like work. Someone moves closer, puts a hand on their back, feels how fast their heart is racing. Too fast, too weak. You don't look away this time. You watch because you need to know. You need to understand what's happening so you can recognize it if it starts happening to you. The breaths grow uneven. There's a pause that stretches too long. Your own breath catches in response. Then another breath comes, but it's smaller, less effective. Their body is fighting, but it's losing coordination. Cold, smoke, exhaustion, all of it stacked too high. Eventually, the breathing stops. Not dramatically, no final gasp, just a quiet end, like a fire finally giving up its last coal. No one speaks, no one cries. You feel something go hollow inside you. Not grief exactly. Space. Space where hope used to be. The body is still warm, but you know that won't last. The cave just got colder in a way no fire can fix. The fire flickers weakly in response to a draft, and for a moment you think it might go out too. You lean in instinctively, shielding it with your body, feeling the heat sting your shins. You're guarding it now like it's alive, like it matters more than anything else. But it's fading. The realization lands fully now. The fire is not going to survive the night. You do the math again. No fuel, too much cold, too much damp. Even if the coals last a few more hours, there's nothing to feed them. Once they're gone, relighting will be nearly impossible in this cold, with numb fingers and wet materials. People gather closer together as the temperature drops. Bodies press together, forming a dense cluster around the dying fire. You can feel ribs and spines through furs. You can feel shivering spread from one body to the next like a sickness. Someone's teeth chatter uncontrollably. Another person's shivering slows, becomes less violent. That scares you more. The light fades further. Shadows swallow the edges of the cave. The fire gives one last weak flare and then collapses into dull red embers. No flames, just glow. You stare at it, willing it to come back, to do something, anything. It doesn't. The cave grows dark. Not complete darkness. Your eyes adjust enough to see shapes, but the kind of dark that makes distance meaningless. The kind of dark that lets fear move freely. Cold pours in now, unchecked. It slides along the ground, climbs legs, grips hands and feet. Without fire, the cave stops being shelter and starts being storage for bodies. Your breathing becomes shallow, not because of smoke now, but because drawing in cold air hurts. Each inhale burns your throat and chest. You tuck your chin down, breathing through fabric, trying to warm the air before it reaches your lungs. Minutes stretch, hours maybe. Time loses structure.
You don't know how long the fire has been gone when you realize you can't feel your toes anymore. Not numb, gone. You stamp them lightly, feel nothing. Panic flares and you force it down. Panic wastes heat. You rub your feet with your hands instead, slow and methodical, trying to force sensation back. You hear someone whisper a prayer to something old and unnamed. The sound is barely audible. You don't judge them, you understand the impulse. The cave feels like it's holding its breath. In the darkness, with no fire, hunger fades completely. Cold takes over. Cold is louder now. It demands everything. Your thoughts slow, your reactions lag. You feel tired in a way sleep won't fix. You realize with frightening clarity that this is the edge. Not the end yet, but the edge of it. The point where survival becomes a question instead of an assumption. You pull your fur tighter, press closer to the others, and wait. Because without fire, there is nothing left to do but endure. You wake up without knowing if you ever slept. There's no clean break between one moment and the next anymore. Time has softened, lost its edges, turned into something you drift through instead of move across. The darkness in the cave is complete now, not just the absence of light, but the presence of it, heavy, pressing, full. You open your eyes and nothing changes. The cave might as well be infinite. Cold is everywhere. Not sharp like before, not attacking, just constant and thorough. It fills your hands, your feet, your chest. It sits in your joints and refuses to leave. You don't shiver as hard as you did earlier. That scares you. Your body feels tired of fighting. You become aware of sound slowly, breathing first. Not the cave as a whole, individual breaths. Too slow here, too fast there. One set of breaths that has a hitch in it, like it keeps forgetting what comes next. Another that rattles softly, wet and uneven. You listen because listening is easier than moving. The fire is gone. You know that without seeing it. The absence is obvious, like missing teeth you keep touching with your tongue. There's no warmth anywhere, no center to gather around. The cave has lost its shape. Without light, without heat, it's just a hollow in the earth where cold collects. Your thoughts come slower now. When one arrives, it drags. You have to follow it deliberately or it slips away. You think about moving your fingers. You tell them to curl. It takes a moment before they respond, and when they do, the sensation is distant, like it belongs to someone else. You press your hands against your thighs, against another body, trying to feel heat. There is some, but it's weak. Everyone is cold now. Shared warmth only goes so far when no one has any to spare. You try to remember how long it's been since the fire died. Hours maybe, or less, or more. Your sense of time is gone. Hunger is gone too, not because it's satisfied, but because your body has put it away, tucked it somewhere deep and quiet. Cold has taken priority. Cold always does. That's when the sounds start to change. At first you think it's the wind again, a low murmur, distant and uneven. But the storm has eased, you know that. This sound is inside the cave. It moves not through air, but through your head. A soft echo, like someone breathing too close to your ear. You turn your head slowly. The movement feels exaggerated, heavy, like your neck is made of wet clay. You see nothing, but the sound is clearer now. A voice, low, familiar. You know that voice. It says your name, not sharply, not urgently, just says it the way someone would if they were sitting beside you, bored, passing time. The sound sends a pulse of heat through your chest, brief and startling. You swallow hard, your throat is dry, painfully dry, and it feels like the sound scraped it on the way in. You tell yourself it's nothing. Cold does this, hunger does this, exhaustion does this. You've heard stories, you've seen it happen to others. People hear things when the body starts conserving too aggressively.
The brain fills in gaps the senses can't manage anymore. The voice comes again.
Closer this time. You don't answer. Answering wastes breath. Answering makes it real. You focus on your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth into fur. Slow, controlled. You feel dizzy anyway. The darkness behind your closed eyes pulses faintly, like something is moving just out of sight. Images begin to surface without your permission. You see fire. Not the weak dying coals from the cave, but a full fire. Tall flames, bright, the kind that crackles and throws sparks. You can almost feel the heat on your face. The image is so vivid your body reacts before your mind can stop it. You lean forward instinctively, hands reaching out. Your fingers touch nothing but cold air. The disappointment hits hard enough to make your chest ache. You pull your hands back, curl them into fists, press them against your body. The fire image fades slowly, reluctantly, like it doesn't want to leave. Something brushes your arm. You flinch violently, heart slamming against your ribs, and almost lose your balance. The movement sends a wave of dizziness through you. You grab blindly at the person next to you and feel fur, skin, bone, solid, real. You look toward where you felt the touch. Still nothing, just darkness. Your breathing has sped up. You force it back down. Fast breathing means heat loss. Panic means mistakes. You know this. You repeat it in your head like a rule you learned as a child. The cave begins to feel crowded in a way it didn't before. Not with bodies, with presence. The air feels thick, charged, like something is wrong with it. You feel watched, even though you know that makes no sense. There's nowhere for anything to hide. Another voice joins the first. This one is softer, younger. You know this one too. Your chest tightens painfully. You recognize the cadence, the way the sound rises and falls. This voice belonged to someone who used to sit near the fire and laugh quietly. Someone who died earlier. Someone whose body is still in the back of the cave, cooling. The voice doesn't say anything meaningful. It hums. A fragment of a sound, a memory more than speech. The kind of noise someone makes when they're content and don't need words. You squeeze your eyes shut, hard. This isn't real. You tell yourself that. You say it again, louder in your head. The cold is cutting blood flow to your brain. The lack of food is starving it. Smoke damaged it. Sleep deprivation damaged it. This is chemistry, not ghosts. The knowledge helps a little, not enough. The cave walls begin to shift when you open your eyes again. Not dramatically, just enough that the shadows seem deeper, the space larger. You blink slowly. The shapes don't settle. They stretch, then contract, like the cave is breathing. You feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to stand up. Not to do anything specific, just to move, to go somewhere, anywhere. The thought comes with a wave of restlessness that makes your skin itch. Sitting still feels unbearable, even though moving will cost you. You fight it. People who follow that urge wander off. People who wander off don't come back. You stay where you are and rock slightly instead, a small motion to trick your body into thinking it's moving. It helps for a moment, then the urge returns stronger. Your vision tunnels. The darkness presses in from the edges. You feel warm all of a sudden, strangely warm, like a blanket has been thrown over you. The contrast is shocking. Your shoulders relax without your permission. Your jaw unclenches. This is wrong. Warmth like this doesn't come out of nowhere. You recognize the danger sign immediately, even through the haze. When hypothermia deepens, the body lies. It tells you you're safe. It tells you to rest. It tells you the cold is gone. You bite the inside of your cheek hard enough to taste blood. The sharpness cuts through the fog. Pain snaps your focus back just a little. The voices fade for a moment. You hear someone whimper nearby,
A low sound, almost animal. You turn toward it slowly. A child, curled tight, breathing shallow, eyes open but unfocused. They're staring at something you can't see. You reach out and touch their arm. Their skin is cold, frighteningly so. They flinch, then cling to you weakly, pressing their face into your fur. The contact grounds you. The weight, the heat, small as it is, pulls you back into your body. The child murmurs something, not words, just sound. You rock them gently, feeling how light they are, how little there is left to insulate them. Fear cuts through you again, sharp and clear. The voices don't stop completely, but they change. They move farther away, like you've stepped back from a fire and the sound has softened. They become less distinct, more like echoes than speech. You realize then that they come strongest when you stop moving, when you let your mind drift. The moment you focus on pain, on touch, on the child's breathing, they weaken. This isn't madness, it's survival malfunctioning. Your brain is trying to keep you alive by giving you comfort, familiar sounds, familiar warmth, familiar faces. It doesn't understand that false comfort can kill you just as easily as cold. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. You don't know. At some point, someone near the edge of the group starts laughing. The sound slices through the cave, sharp and wrong. It's high, breathy, completely out of place. It goes on too long. You feel your stomach drop.
You turn toward it and see the person rocking back and forth, arms wrapped around themselves. Their eyes are open wide, reflecting nothing. Their lips move silently between bursts of laughter, like they're having a conversation with someone only they can see. No one rushes to stop them, not because no one cares, but because everyone understands. Interfering costs energy, and sometimes the laughter stops on its own. It does. Abruptly. The person slumps forward, chin to chest, breath slowing. You wait for the next inhale. It comes. Too shallow. Then another. Longer pause. You look away before you see how it ends. The cave is quieter after that, not just in sound, in presence. The hallucinations seem to thin, as if something has been satisfied or finished. Your own warmth illusion fades, replaced by biting cold that feels even worse by comparison. You huddle tighter around the child, pulling fur around both of you, rubbing their arms slowly to keep circulation going. You whisper nothing. Words feel unnecessary. Touch does more. Your vision blurs again, this time with light. Not firelight. Daylight. You see the cave entrance opened and clear, sun pouring in, snow melting away. You see people standing outside, calling, waving. Rescue. Relief. The image is so strong you feel tears sting your eyes. You know better. You force yourself to look away from the imagined light, down at the dark floor, at the child in your arms. The vision dissolves, leaving behind disappointment and exhaustion. Your head feels heavy now. Holding it up is work. You rest your chin against your chest and focus on breathing again. In, out, slow. You repeat it until it becomes automatic. The hallucinations don't stop completely. They never do. They hover at the edges of your awareness, waiting for you to weaken again, waiting for stillness, waiting for surrender. You understand now why people walk into storms smiling. You understand why bodies are found sitting peacefully in the snow. The mind gives up before the body does. You tighten your grip on what's real, the child's breathing, the ache in your joints, the pain in your fingers, and cling to it fiercely. Because as terrifying as the cold is, as brutal as hunger and darkness have become, there is something more dangerous here now. Your own mind is trying to let go. And if you stop fighting it, even for a moment, the cave will claim you, without a sound.
You wake up to wait.
it shouldn't be there. An arm across your chest, a leg tangled with yours. For a moment, disorientation fogs everything, and you think it's just how you fell asleep, bodies piled together for warmth. Then you try to shift, and the weight doesn't adjust. It doesn't respond. You open your eyes to darkness that feels thinner than before, not lighter, emptier. Sound is different too, fewer breaths, longer gaps between them. You stay still and listen carefully, afraid of what the silence is about to tell you. The child in your arms isn't breathing. You don't react right away. Your mind refuses to catch up to your senses. You press your ear closer to their chest, willing yourself to feel movement, to hear something faint and stubborn. There's nothing. Their body is slack in a way that has no ambiguity. Not tense, not shivering, just still. Cold has already claimed them fully. The skin beneath your hand feels waxy, unreal, too smooth, too quiet. You don't cry out, you don't gasp. Your body doesn't have the energy for that kind of response anymore. Instead, a slow pressure builds behind your eyes, heavy and dull, like a headache made of grief and exhaustion. You close your eyes and rest your forehead against theirs for a moment, breathing through fur and the smell of cold skin. This is what it looks like. Not dramatic, not violent, just an absence that settles in and stays. You gently move the child away from you, arranging them the same way others were arranged before, limbs straightened, fur pulled up, face turned slightly aside. You do it carefully because stiffness is already starting, because you've learned how quickly the body stops cooperating once heat is gone. When you pull back, the cold rushes in immediately to fill the space where their warmth used to be. It feels sharper than before, like punishment. Someone nearby notices. You don't have to say anything. They see the shape of the body, the way you're sitting too still. The cave absorbs the knowledge without sound. No one asks questions. No one needs answers. Another body joins the back of the cave. The count changes again. You feel it immediately, not emotionally, but physically. Less shared heat, less mass, less resistance against the cold. The group is shrinking, and the cave feels bigger because of it, bigger and emptier and more dangerous. The hallucinations from earlier have faded, replaced by something worse. Clarity. You're awake now in a way you haven't been for days. Pain sharpens, cold bites deeper. Every sensation feels exposed. There's no comfort left to soften anything. The cave is showing you exactly where you are. Someone tries to stand and fails. You hear the scrape of boots on stone, the sudden thud as they fall back against the wall. They curse weakly, more out of habit than anger. Their legs don't seem to remember how to work properly. Muscle has been eaten away quietly by hunger. Cold has slowed signals between brain and limb. The body is becoming unreliable. They don't try again. The fire is still gone. The cave has fully transitioned now from shelter to test. Breath fogs the air constantly. Moisture clings to hair and fur. Your fingers ache with a deep, pulsing pain that never fully leaves. You rub them together automatically, though it does almost nothing. Someone coughs again. The sound is worse this time, wet, rattling, deep in the chest. It echoes through the cave, too loud, too intimate. You watch the person fold in on themselves, arms wrapped tight around their ribs, trying to contain something that won't be contained. They spit onto the ground. The sound is thick. You don't need to see it to know what color it is. Breathing becomes an event. Everyone is aware of it now. Each inhale is a negotiation with cold air that burns on the way in and scrapes on the way out. You tuck your face deeper into fur, breathing through layers to warm the air first. It helps a little, not enough. Time dissolves further. Without firelight, day and night blur together. Pale light creeps in through the entrance at some point, then fades again. You don't know how long it lasts. You don't know how long anything lasts anymore. Another body goes still. This one is older. You'd noticed how they stopped shivering hours ago, how their breathing slowed until it barely disturbed the air. You watched without wanting to, knowing what it meant. Now it's finished. Their head is tilted at an odd angle, mouth slightly open, eyes half-lidded. They look peaceful in a way that makes your stomach twist. Peace is a lie the body tells itself at the end. You help move them, too. It takes effort you barely have. Your arms tremble under the weight, not because they're heavy, but because you're weak. The back of the cave is filling now. Not crowded, just populated enough to make the loss undeniable. You don't cover the faces anymore. You don't have the energy. Hunger returns briefly, sharp and confusing. Your stomach cramps hard enough to make you gasp, and for a split second your body reacts with urgency. Find food, eat anything, now. Your eyes flick to the back of the cave before you can stop them. You look away immediately, heart pounding. The thought terrifies you, not because it exists, but because of how practical it feels, how quiet, how reasonable hunger can make anything sound.
You clamp down on it hard, pushing it away with everything you have left. That path leads nowhere you can come back from. You'd rather die cold than live with that. The cave grows quieter with each passing hour. Fewer movements, fewer sounds. The air feels stale despite the cold drafts. You scrape snow away from the entrance again just to let fresh air in, even though it costs heat. The act makes your head spin. You have to sit down afterward, chest heaving, vision darkening at the edges. Your hands shake uncontrollably now. Not from fear, from exhaustion. Your muscles are running on nothing. When you stop moving, the shaking worsens. When you move, you burn energy you don't have. There's no right choice left. Someone begins to murmur softly nearby. Not hallucinating, remembering. They speak fragments of old stories half-formed, out of order. Names, places, things that mattered once. The sound is faint and slurred, like their tongue is too heavy for their mouth. Listening hurts. It feels like watching someone drift out to sea while you're tied to the shore. The murmuring fades. The breaths slow. You don't check this time. You already know. By the time the next pale light filters into the cave, the group is noticeably smaller. The living cluster tighter, pressed together instinctively, as if trying to make up for lost mass. You feel bones everywhere now. Hips, shoulders, knees. Everyone has edges. You realize something else with unsettling clarity. You're not afraid anymore. Not in the way you were before. Fear takes energy. It demands reaction. You don't have that kind of energy left. What you feel now is closer to resignation. Not surrender, but acceptance of possibility. You understand, deeply, that you may not leave this cave alive. The thought doesn't cause panic. It just exists. Another cough breaks the quiet, the worst one yet. It tears through the cave like something ripping cloth. That person coughing tries to breathe and can't catch it. Their face is flushed dark against pale skin, sweat beads on their temples despite the cold. Their chest heaves violently. You move toward them without thinking, placing a hand on their back, feeling the erratic rhythm beneath your palm. Too fast, too weak. Each breath is shallower than the last. They look at you, really look at you. Their eyes are clear in a way that feels final. No confusion, no hallucination, just awareness. They try to say something.
Their lips move but no sound comes out. You lean closer, even though cold air bites your face, even though it costs energy. They don't finish. The breath leaves them and doesn't come back. You stay there for a long moment, hand still on their back, feeling warmth drain away. Around you, no one moves, no one reacts. The cave accepts another subtraction. This is the peak of it. Not the storm, not the cold, not even hunger. This, watching people disappear one by one, quietly, without resistance, until survival stops feeling like something you're actively doing and starts feeling like something that's just happening to you, or not. You sit back against the wall, sliding down until you're on the ground. Your legs don't complain anymore. They barely register. Your head rests against cold stone and you don't pull away. You don't have the strength. The cave is almost silent now, just a few breaths, just a few heartbeats, just enough life to notice how fragile it all is. You think of the hunters again, not with hope this time, with envy. If they died quickly, out there in the storm, maybe they were spared this part. Maybe they never had to watch warmth vanish from someone they loved. The thought surprises you with how comforting it feels. Your eyelids droop. Not from sleepiness, your body is conserving again, shutting down non-essential awareness. The edges of your vision blur. Your breathing slows without you telling it to. You catch yourself. This is how it happens. Not with drama, not with resistance, just a slow easing into stillness. You bite your lip hard enough to draw blood. The taste shocks you, metallic and sharp. Pain flares and then fades, but it's enough to pull you back for a moment, enough to remind you that you're still here. Barely. You look around the cave one more time, memorizing shapes in the dim light. The pile of bodies in the back, the living huddle, the entrance still blocked by snow, still indifferent. This is the lowest point, the point where suffering stops escalating because there's nowhere left for it to go. You don't know if help is coming. You don't know if the storm outside has fully passed. You don't know if you'll last another night. All you know is this. You are surrounded by death. You are starving. You are freezing. And somehow, impossibly, you are still breathing. For now. You wake up because something is different. And for a long moment, you can't name what it is. Your eyes open to gray instead of black. Not darkness thinning into imagination, real light. Weak, cold, but undeniable. It filters through the cave entrance in a narrow band, cutting across the floor and touching the backs of the people huddled together like a hesitant hand. Light means the storm has broken. The realization moves through you slowly like blood returning to a limb that's been asleep. It hurts as it wakes up. Your chest tightens, your breath catches. You don't let yourself believe it yet. Storms lie. Weather pretends. You've learned that. You shift carefully, joints screaming in protest, and turn your head toward the entrance. Snow is still there, piled high, but it's no longer moving. No wind driving it sideways, no roar, just silence. A deep, unnatural silence that feels louder than the storm ever was. The cave breathes differently now. Air flows in gently instead of being forced. The smoke smell has faded, replaced by cold, clean emptiness. It burns your lungs when you inhale, sharp and fresh, but you welcome it anyway. Clean air means time. Time means possibility. People stir around you, slow and cautious, as if afraid movement might bring the storm back. Eyes open one by one, faces lift toward the light. No one smiles, no one speaks. Hope is too fragile for that. You sit up, swaying, and plant a hand on the ground to steady yourself. The floor is frozen hard now, not muddy. Everything feels locked in place by cold. You take a breath and feel it cut all the way down into your chest. Pain flares, and with it, awareness. You're still alive. That thought feels foreign, unreal,
like remembering something from another life. Someone crawls toward the entrance and begins clearing snow with numb hands, slower than before, more deliberate. This time, the snow gives way easily, collapsing inward in soft chunks. Light pours in wider with each movement. The cave brightens enough for you to see faces clearly for the first time in what feels like forever. You count them without meaning to. The number is wrong. Your throat tightens. You force your eyes away from the living and toward the back of the cave, where bodies lie in shapes you recognize too well. Pale faces, still hands, open mouths that will never draw breath again. The storm didn't kill them all. Hunger and cold finished what it started. The entrance opens fully at last. Cold air floods in, sharp and invigorating. The world outside is silent and buried but visible. The valley has returned, flattened, smoothed, stripped of detail, but real. Snowdrifts rise like frozen waves. Rocks poke through in familiar places. The sky is high and pale, stretched thin, but it's calm. The storm is gone. You crawl closer to the opening, ignoring the protest in your limbs, and peer out. The snowfield is unbroken. No tracks, no movement, no sign of the hunters, no sign of anyone. Relief and dread collide in your chest. You survived the storm, but you survived it alone. Someone behind you exhales a sound that might be laughter or might be sobbing. It's impossible to tell. Another person whispers something you can't make out. The words don't matter. What matters is that the world didn't end. It just narrowed. You step outside. The cold hits you immediately, brutal and honest, but it's different now. Dry, still. You stand there swaying, legs weak, and let the sunlight touch your face. It doesn't warm you, but it proves something important. The sky hasn't collapsed. Time is still moving. The snow is deep, deeper than you expected. Each step sinks you almost to the knee, and it takes real effort to pull free. Your muscles burn instantly. You stop after only a few steps, breathing hard, heart racing too fast for the work you're doing. You are alive, but you are not strong. The cave behind you is quiet. The people inside watch without following. No one rushes out. No one celebrates. Leaving shelter is dangerous now. Even with the storm gone, the land is hostile. Cold kills just as efficiently on clear days. You scan the horizon again, slower this time, more carefully. There, far off, barely visible against the white, a thin line of smoke. You freeze. At first you think it's a trick of the light. Your eyes have lied to you before. Hunger and exhaustion can paint convincing pictures. You blink hard, squint, shift your angle. The smoke is still there, thin, pale, rising straight up into the still air. Fire. Your heart slams so hard it makes you dizzy. You brace your hands against your thighs, breathing fast despite yourself. Fire means people. People mean food, warmth, help, or danger. But danger feels like a gift compared to this. You stagger back into the cave, nearly falling as your foot catches in deep snow. You don't bother trying to look calm. You point, you gesture, you let your body speak because words come slowly now. Others see it. A ripple moves through the group. Bodies shift, heads turn, eyes narrow against the light. The smoke is faint, but once seen, it can't be unseen. A sound moves through the cave, low, disbelieving, charged. Not joy, not yet. Something sharper. Decision. The distance is hard to judge. It could be close, it could be far. In this terrain, distance lies. Snow hides slopes, cold drains strength. A journey that looks short can kill you halfway. But staying here will kill you too. The cave is finished. No fire, no food, too many dead, too much cold soaked into stone and flesh. Survival here has reached its end. The group prepares slowly, painfully. There is no energy for haste. Furs are tightened. Feet are wrapped again and again. Layers added where skin has gone numb. People test their legs, stand, sway, sit back down, try again. You feel every weakness in your own body now. Trembling hands, a heartbeat that stutters, vision that narrows when you stand too fast. You take one last look at the back of the cave. The bodies remain where they are. There is no strength left to move them, no way to bury them in frozen ground. You don't say goodbye. Goodbyes are for people who expect to return. You step out into the open world with the others, and the cave watches you go, dark and empty, keeping what it took. The walk is worse than you imagined. Snow resists every step, sucking at your legs, stealing balance. Your thighs burn after minutes. Your lungs ache, pulling in cold air that feels too big for them. You stop often, pretending it's to check direction, but really you're just trying not to collapse. The smoke drifts closer, slowly, agonizingly. It never seems to get much bigger. The land is cruel like that. Someone falls behind. You notice it not by sound but by absence. Their breathing no longer near yours, their footfalls gone. You turn and see them kneeling in the snow, head bowed, shoulders slumped. They don't look injured, just empty. You go back for them. Each step feels like wading through stone. You reach them and grab their arm, feeling how light they are. They look up at you with unfocused eyes. They try to stand. Their legs buckle. You don't speak. You don't argue. You just pull. They move, slowly, leaning into you. The extra weight nearly breaks you. Your legs shake violently. Spots dance in your vision. You don't know if you can do this. But the smoke is closer now. You can smell it, faintly. Wood, real wood, not bone. The smell punches through the fog in your head like a blow. You keep moving. Eventually, shapes appear through the white, dark forms, a cluster of rocks, a low shelter dug into a drift. People emerge cautiously as you approach, silhouettes against the snow. They see you. There's shouting, real voices, real sound. You don't understand the words at first. Your brain lags. But the tone is unmistakable. Shock, alarm, then urgency. Hands grab you, support you, pull you forward. You stumble into warmth that feels impossible after so long. Firelight, smoke, bodies radiating heat. You collapse to your knees without meaning to. Someone pushes a bowl into your hands. Liquid, warm. You drink before thinking. The broth is thin, barely more than flavored water, but it's hot, and it hits your stomach like a miracle. Pain flares immediately, sharp cramps as your body protests the sudden intake. You gasp, clutching the bowl, but you don't stop. You sip slowly now, remembering too late what hunger does when fed too fast. Others from your group arrive behind you, one by one. Some supported, some carried. Everyone looks like something dragged out of the earth. The people who found you move efficiently. They've seen this before. Survivors. They wrap you in furs. They sit you near the fire, but not too close. They watch your breathing. They control how much you drink. They know the rules. You sit there, shaking, staring into flames that burn steady and strong, and something inside you finally breaks. Not loudly, not in tears.
Just a release. Your shoulders sag. Your head bows. You feel exhaustion pour through you like water through a cracked vessel. You are safe. Safer than you've been in days, and your body responds by letting go all at once. As warmth seeps back into you, pain blooms everywhere. Fingers throb. Toes scream as sensation returns.
Your skin burns and itches. You grit your teeth and endure it because pain means nerves are still alive. You glance back toward the direction you came from, toward the cave you escaped. The smoke from this fire rises clean and straight into the sky. Behind you, somewhere out there, the Ice Age has claimed its share. It always does. You survive the night. But as you sit trembling by the fire, surrounded by strangers who pulled you back from the edge, one thing is already clear, even before the next chapter begins. Survival didn't end the suffering. It just changed its shape. You wake up warm, and the sensation feels wrong. Not comforting, alarming. Your body doesn't trust it. Heat like this hasn't existed for you in days, and the sudden return makes every nerve scream. You gasp and try to pull away instinctively before realizing you're wrapped in thick furs that don't smell like you or your cave. They smell cleaner, like smoke that burned real wood, like people who still had strength. The fire is close, too close. Not the dying glow you learned to fear, but a living thing. Flames standing upright, steady, confident. They crackle softly, and the sound alone makes your chest tighten. You stare at it like it might vanish if you blink. Your hands shake uncontrollably, not from cold anymore, from shock, from your body trying to restart systems that have been shut down too long. Pins and needles stab into your fingers, then spread up your arms like fire under the skin. You hiss through clenched teeth and curl your hands into the furs, grounding yourself in pressure and texture so you don't panic. Someone moves nearby and you flinch hard, heart slamming against your ribs. You turn your head too fast and the world tilts violently. The shelter you're in is low and tight, half dug into snow and reinforced with hides and wood. Smoke curls up through a hole in the roof and escapes cleanly. You watch it for a long moment, hypnotized by how easily it leaves. A figure kneels beside you. Broad shoulders, thick furs. Their movements are careful, practiced. They don't crowd you. They don't touch you without warning. They set a bowl near your hands and wait.
You understand without words. You lift the bowl slowly, the liquid inside trembling as much as you are. The smell hits first, fat, salt, heat. Your stomach tightens violently in response, cramping so hard it steals your breath. You freeze, knowing this pain, knowing what comes if you drink too fast. You sip. The broth is thin, barely more than warm water with memory in it, but it's enough. It slides down your throat and spreads heat through your chest. Your body reacts immediately, flooding you with pain and relief in equal measure. You close your eyes and breathe through it, focusing on not spilling a drop. Around you, others from your group are being tended the same way. You hear soft sounds, groans, choking sobs, uncontrolled laughter that collapses into silence. Survivors don't react cleanly. Their bodies don't know which response fits anymore. The people who found you move with quiet efficiency. They don't ask questions yet. They don't press. They feed you slowly. They keep you warm but not overheated. They rub circulation back into frozen limbs with firm, relentless pressure that hurts badly enough to make you grit your teeth and nod when they look to you for permission to continue. Pain is good now. Pain means blood is moving. Time stretches in strange ways. You drift in and out of awareness, not sleeping exactly, but slipping. Each time you surface, the fire is still there, the shelter still solid, the voices around you still real. No whispers from stone, no imagined hands, no false warmth. At some point, you realize something else. The people who rescued you are watching you closely, not suspiciously, assessing,
counting breaths, tracking shivers, noting skin color, eye focus, reaction time. They've done this before. They know what comes next if they're careless. You catch fragments of their speech, different cadence, different rhythm, familiar enough to understand with effort, unfamiliar enough to remind you that you are not with your people anymore. That realization lands heavily. You survived, but you crossed into someone else's world to do it. When they finally help you sit upright, the movement drains you completely. Your muscles tremble under your own weight. You feel how much you've lost in just a few days. Strength stripped down to the minimum needed to breathe. You feel fragile in a way that is deeply unsettling. They give you more broth, then stop you before you ask for more. You don't argue. You know better now. One of them gestures toward the shelter entrance. You follow their gaze. Outside, the world is painfully bright. The snow reflects the sky in blinding white, clean and merciless. Your eyes water instantly. You squint, tears freezing at the corners. The storm's aftermath stretches in every direction. Buried land, broken contours, silence. It looks peaceful in the way only lethal environments do. Your cave is nowhere to be seen.
The drifted landscape has erased it completely. Even knowing where it was, you can't find it. The place where people died, where you almost did, has been swallowed without ceremony. Your chest tightens, and for a moment you think you might be sick. The people around you notice the change immediately. One of them places a steadying hand between your shoulder blades. The contact is grounding, real. You lean into it despite yourself. That's when the weight of survival finally lands. Not relief, not joy, guilt. You see the faces of those who didn't make it with painful clarity. The child, the coughing bodies, the ones who stopped shivering, the ones who went quiet while you were still breathing. The warmth around you now feels stolen, even though you know that thought isn't fair. Your jaw tightens. You stare at the fire again, eyes burning. Someone says something gently, low and steady. You don't catch all of it, but the tone is unmistakable. This happens. Storms take groups. Survivors carry what's left. That doesn't make it lighter. As the day wears on, strength returns in small, humiliating increments. You manage to stand with help. Your legs buckle immediately, and you're lowered back down without judgment. No one rushes you. Rushing kills people like you. You drink more. You eat a small piece of soft food later, barely more than paste. It hurts going down. Your stomach cramps violently, curling you forward until someone braces you and talks you through it. You focus on breathing, on not losing consciousness. When night comes, you don't panic. Fire stays. That alone feels unreal. You lie wrapped in furs, staring at flames that don't fade, listening to a shelter that doesn't groan under the weight of snow. The people around you settle in calmly. Guards take positions near the entrance. Fuel is stacked nearby in abundance that almost makes you angry to look at. You should sleep. You don't. Every time your eyes close, you see the cave again. The darkness, the bodies, the silence after breathing stops. Your heart races. Your hands clench. Someone notices and shifts closer, placing a solid weight beside you. Not touching too much, just enough. Eventually, exhaustion wins anyway. You sleep in short, broken pieces, haunted, but alive. When you wake again, it's with the understanding that rescue was not an ending. It was a transfer. You've been pulled out of immediate death, yes, but you've carried the cave with you. It sits heavy in your chest, in your thoughts, in the way you flinch at sudden sounds and watch fires too closely. The Ice Age didn't let you go. It just allowed you to keep breathing. And as the people who saved you prepare to move on, pack their shelter, plan their next hunt, you realize something that makes your stomach sink despite the warmth around you.
You don't know how to be anything except a survivor anymore. And that will cost you, long after the cold has loosened its grip. You wake before the fire dies down, before the shelter stirs, because your body has learned not to trust quiet. For a moment, you don't know where you are. The furs feel too thick. The ground feels too even. The air doesn't bite the inside of your lungs the way you expect it to. That mismatch sends a jolt of panic through you, sharp and fast, until you see the flames again, steady, controlled, watched by people who still have the strength to tend them. You exhale slowly, forcing the breath out through clenched teeth. Your heart takes longer than it should to settle. Morning comes gently here, not the sudden gray intrusion you grew used to in the cave. Light filters through hides, softened, filtered, forgiving. It shows you details you hadn't had the energy to notice before. Stacks of fuel arranged by size and dryness, tools set neatly along the wall, furs hung where they can dry. This group lives with intention, not comfort, just preparation. Someone offers you water warmed just enough to take the edge off the cold. You drink carefully, painfully aware of every swallow. Your throat still feels raw, scraped thin by smoke and dehydration. When the water hits your stomach, it cramps in warning. You pause, breathe through it, then take another small sip. Control matters now. Your body is fragile, unpredictable, like a badly mended tool. Outside, you hear movement. Not frantic, purposeful. The soft crunch of boots on snow, low voices exchanging information. The day is beginning, whether you're ready or not. You sit up with help. Your head swims, vision narrowing, and you have to stop halfway, gripping the fur beneath you until the dizziness passes. The weakness is humiliating. You feel it in the way your arms shake under their own weight, in the way standing feels like a negotiation instead of a decision. No one comments. No one rushes you. They've seen this too many times. When you finally stand, supported on both sides, the world feels unreal. Too bright, too open. Snow stretches out in every direction, smooth and blinding. The air is brutally cold, but it's honest cold, not the suffocating, trapped cold of the cave. You breathe it in and it hurts, clean and sharp. The camp is small but organized, temporary. Everything here is meant to move. Shelters can be dismantled quickly, supplies packed, fires extinguished without waste. These people don't stay anywhere long enough to be trapped. That realization lands hard. They are leaving. Soon. You watch them prepare with a strange detachment. Bundles are tied, tools checked, food divided carefully, with portions adjusted now that more mouths exist, yours included. The logic is ruthless and necessary. You understand it immediately. You survived long enough to recognize efficiency. Someone gestures toward the horizon, toward land that looks identical in every direction. You follow the motion with your eyes, and your stomach tightens. Leaving shelter, even good shelter, still feels like stepping into danger. Your body remembers too well what exposure costs. The cave flashes in your mind, dark, airless, packed with bodies that never stood up again. You look away quickly, breath hitching. You realize you're shaking again, not from cold this time, from anticipation. When they help you walk, every step is an effort. Snow resists your feet, dragging at your legs. Your muscles burn almost immediately, lactic acid flooding tissue that hasn't worked properly in days. You grit your teeth and keep moving, because stopping feels worse than pain. Stopping feels like failure. They pace you carefully, slower than they would normally go. Someone always within arm's reach. You hate that you need it. You accept it anyway. As you move away from the camp, you glance back once. The fire is still burning. The sight twists something in your chest. Fire means safety now. Fire means survival. Walking away from it feels wrong, even though you know more fire waits ahead if you keep moving. The land rolls gently under snow, hiding dangers beneath smooth curves. Ice crusts crack without warning. Your foot slips once, and you go down hard, the impact mocking the breath from you in a sharp, humiliating rush. Hands are on you instantly, steadying, lifting, checking. You laugh then, a short, broken sound that surprises you as much as anyone else. It's not joy, it's release. The absurdity of still being alive, of still falling, of still getting back up. The sound fades quickly, leaving behind a hollow ache. You walk for hours like this, measured and slow. The sun hangs low and pale, offering no warmth, only light. The farther you go, the more your body protests. Pain blooms everywhere at once. Your feet throb inside stiff wrappings. Your hips grind. Your shoulders ache from tension you can't let go of. Your mind drifts despite your efforts to stay present. You find yourself scanning shadows automatically, listening for wind changes that aren't there. Every dip in the land looks like a trap. Every silence feels like a warning. At one point, you realize you're counting people again. You stop yourself, ashamed. The habit is hard to break. Survival in the cave trained you to watch for subtraction. Here, among the living, it feels obscene. When you stop to rest, you collapse more than sit. Your legs simply refuse to hold you anymore. You curl forward instinctively, protecting your core, breathing hard through your nose. Sweat beads along your spine despite the cold, and panic flares. Sweat is dangerous. But someone notices and pulls a fur around you, blocking the wind until your breathing slows. They offer you food again, soft, minimal, enough to keep you moving. You eat it carefully, eyes closed, focusing on not rushing, on letting your body accept it without revolt. As you sit there, wrapped in borrowed warmth, the reality of what you've lost finally catches up with you in full. Your people are gone. Not scattered, not delayed, gone. The cave is gone too, buried under snow, erased as if it never sheltered anyone at all. No marker, no memory the land will keep, just a smooth white surface where suffering ended quietly. The weight of that presses down on you harder than hunger ever did. Your chest tightens, breath going shallow. You stare at the ground, at your gloved hands, at the faint tremor that never quite stops. You wonder why you were the one pulled out. Why not the child? Why not the older ones who knew more? Why not the hunters who left early and never returned? There is no answer. The Ice Age doesn't trade in reasons. When you stand again, your legs feel like borrowed tools, usable, unreliable. You keep moving because stopping isn't an option, not anymore. As the light begins to fade, the group chooses a place to shelter for the night. Not a cave, never a cave, unless there is no other choice. They build low walls from snow, pack hides over frames, create windbreaks that can be abandoned at first light. Fires are small, controlled, positioned to minimize smoke. You watch all of it with new eyes. This is how you survive without pretending you're safe. As you settle near the fire, wrapped tight, exhaustion finally settles deep into your bones. Not the deadly exhaustion of cold and hunger, but the kind that comes after prolonged terror, when the body realizes it might live and collapses under the weight of everything it held back. Your hands ache, your feet throb, your chest feels bruised from breathing too hard for too long. Every injury, every weakness announces itself now that crisis has eased. You stare into the flames, unable to look away. Fire no longer comforts you, it reminds you.